of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristado, Chapter 14. Smarter. Sunday swung around with its usual gusto. However, on the eve of his first month of business, there had been a few changes to the usual routine.
You want me to make 100 muffins, 10 cheesecakes, and 2 dozen assorted fruit pies?
Sir Niday had called his personal cell phone an hour before the kids would arrive. He really didn't want to know why one of the top-rated heroes in the country had used his considerable resources to contact him directly, so he hadn't asked. Privacy wasn't a thing these days. New laws to remotely investigate ensured that.
All Might is hosting a private function at his estate in 10 days' time. He's extended you an invitation, and despite my best efforts, he has set his heart on having your wares and has offered you the use of his extensive kitchens and staff.
The actual fuck?
That's an irrational request, he stated bluntly. Also, if he ever wants anything from me, then tell him to ask me himself. You're not his secretary, and I'm not a caterer. I'm a small business owner here for my community. He have a community which he, you, and your sidekicks are more than welcome to join, but the buck stops there. To spend so much of my time on one person's fanciful wants would be illogical when measured against the needs of the many, wouldn't it?
Because, really? Hadn't he explicitly told the Golden-Eye Man about his venture when they met and he asked all those few weeks ago? Shit, he knew that serving All Might back then would come back to bite him.
Aizawa son.
And worse still, the enigmatic suit wearer so primly addressing him now had seemed like a reasonable, practical man at the time.
Which just went to show you that first impressions could be deceiving. It was a good job that he didn't believe in those. Neither am I interested in any function he's throwing, and before you ask, no, this has nothing to do with money, so please don't bother proffering a price, he added before with a rueful shake of his head. I'm sure he's not used to hearing no, but that's not my problem either. He huffed. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have lessons to teach and errands to run, he stated, his tone probably a little too curt, but he couldn't help the spike of anger that lanced through him. Famous people who thought that they could buy whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, just rubbed him up the wrong way. And, as illogical as it was, he thought that All Might wasn't that kind of man. This, upon reflection, had been stupid of him. He mentally blamed Izuku's effervescent love of his idol for this skew in perception. Maybe the doctors were wrong and the force their child had a quirk after all. A quirk that forced the people around him to see the inherent good in all of the things he so innocently loved so much. Could we... Goodbye, sir. He cut off, his thumb swiftly moving to end the call. Blocking the number probably wouldn't do anything, but still it was worth a try. God! It was a good job he was running the class soon. He needed to blow off some steam and settle down. With a sly grin, he was almost tempted to call the 3 pros who adopted the area so he could give another demonstration. Taking a leaf out of Katsuki and Eiichira's book of punch-related therapy probably wasn't a good idea, though, was it? More irrationality. Perhaps his lodger was right. He needed to take more breaks, didn't he? Speaking of which, his employee was dutifully setting up the marquee, and if it wasn't his imagination, he seemed a bit brighter, happier, and more settled with every passing day. Better still, they decided to visit the local mall as an outing together. He'd talked about using some of his wages to pick up a few more games for the cafe, which had made him irrationally proud, but also a little concerned that the teen thought it was his responsibility to do such things. He had offered to get him his own console, of course, but Dobby had just flicked his forehead, told him to keep your yen nuts, old guy, and get something for yourself for a change, and ruffled his hair before sitting beside him on their living room's couch, his body leaning against his as they watched morning cartoons. Then, after a touch of pleasant, snarky banter, the teen had let it slip that he was expecting someone to stop by and play a few RPGs with him tomorrow evening. He'd been thrilled. His gentle information-seeking teasing had been countered with blushes, huffs, shoves, and laughter. And so, after promising not to make it a big deal, because you're always going overboard, you noble-hearted idiot, about the whole thing, they were going to have their first, non-cafe related activity together. It was illogical to tie any emotional value to it, but hell, it wouldn't kill him to be illogical now and again, would it? Okay, great work today. Back to your resting positions.
The kids were really starting to make progress when it came to their movement, speed, and technical accuracy, and as he passed around the lemonades, the early June heat was starting to creep higher, wasn't it? He quietly spoke to each child in turn to give feedback and praise.
Koski, thank you for wearing those quirk-dampening gloves. I know that you don't find them comfortable, but...
Are you kidding? The tot snorted, his smirk sharpening cockily. With these bad boys on, I can punch AGU super hard without worrying that I'm setting him on fire.
He tittered, his glee causing Shouta to sigh, the index finger and thumb of his right hand pinching the bridge of his nose. This kid!
I think you're getting real strong now too, Kochan.
The Raven boy breathed, his lemonade already gone with a pleased laugh.
What about me, eh? I got you pretty good just now, eh?
You keep it like that and I'll let you be my sidekick if you ask me nice.
God! Oh, really? That'd be so cool! Me and you make a pretty awesome team, won't we?
He grinned before, much to the cafe owner's shock, the sharp-toothed child pointed at Izuku, who was stretching with Hitoshi and Bankade, the three animatedly chatting about a new manga they were following.
And Deku can be our super cool analysis guy who figures out what the villains are up to and where they are so we can go smash them, can he?
Sharing a quick look with Dabi, who was taking Ochako and Tsuyu's empty glasses, his brows rising, Shouta then slanted his eyes to Katsuki as the boy huffed, his arms folding. Shit! Kirishima might have opened a whole can of worms here. Completely inadvertently, of course. He was such a friendly, enthusiastic, and well-meaning young man. He'd not been around to see the pair bickering and didn't go to their elementary school. Not that Ingo had said anything about the blonde being openly antagonistic as of late. But those worms could transform into snakes that'd rip apart the wonderful dynamics that the group had been nurturing.
Don't be stupid!
The explosive quirk user snorted, his crimson eyes meeting Izuku's across the astroturf, the canvas balls of the marquee flapping as the wind picked up.
Deku's better at analyzing quirks so he can help us fight smarter,
he stated, his smirk tilting into a grin as he regarded his former best friend. Dare he hope that the kid was finally acknowledging the boy who'd walk through fire for him?
He'll have to keep on getting smarter, tougher, and faster if he's gonna track villains down as well,
he furthered with a shrug before looking at the rest of the assembled kids.
All of you are gonna have to get stronger and smarter too, right?
He started before standing,
his smile growing fierce. Cause we're gonna be heroes, right? Heh! Get real good, and I'll let you all be in my agency. You'll have to keep up because I'm gonna be the #1 pro someday, so I can't be seen with weakling losers, you got it? God! Whoa, this is so freaking manly!
He couldn't have been prouder! Heck yeah! You can count on us, Kochan! In his most irrational thought to date, Shouta had wanted to scoop the kid up and squeeze him! Especially when many of the tots continued to cheer and nod enthusiastically at the rousing speech that even Adabi laughed, snorting and shaking his head ruefully. However, if the little hellion heard Hitoshi whisper deep and #1 pro, he'll have to stop yelling die so much, that won't he? To a thoughtfully nodding Tsuyu and a slip-drop Pepper no Cheko, who was clapping along despite herself. He was enjoying the positive attention too much to care. Small mercies. Then, feeling the tension bleed from his shoulders, he settled for ruffling the boisterous child's soft yet spiky jags of glistening blonde hair with his trayless hand instead. This was a big step. A huge one. And the elated smile on Izuku's face as he breathed out a soft, overwhelmed "Kochan!" it damn near melted him.
Ma, that goes for you and Dabini too, Aizawa-san.
The boy veritably preened under his fingers and stated determinedly,
You'll probably be way too old to fight by then, but you could be our manager or our team dad or something,
he offered whilst rubbing his nose in a pleased superior gesture. This kid.
Team dad, huh?
He chuckled, his heart warm.
I'll think about it.
Waving off most of the kids and their parents, Shouta had turned to look for Shinso-san and Inko. Kirishima-san and Mitsuki were already firm friends alongside Denki's mother, the six walking off together. Tsuyu's father, a little out of puff, had come for his daughter and her best friend. However, when neither materialized, after 10 minutes, his lodger had taken the boys inside to have a quick wash in the bathroom sinks. He started to call them, his eyes narrowing at the apartment complexes that loomed behind his establishment. "Oh! Aizawa-san, I'm sorry," Midoriya's mother answered quickly, her tone panicked. "My boss called me half an hour ago. Our company has been hacked and they need me to—"
I can look after Izuku until the adult classes start. He called over the fluster he could hear in her voice. Do what you need to do, alright?
Oh, Shouta-kun, you're...
Jet, you can almost feel her tears seeping through the foam. God, when would life give that poor, deeply feeling woman a break? Don't worry about it. He tried to soothe. Would it be okay to take him to the Western District's mall?
Ah, your godsend! She breathed. He has his wallet with him. I was going to take it myself. She furthered, her tearful words now dejected. He's been so good, and I wanted to treat him.
You could treat him once you've secured what you need to do for the job you worked so hard at, Inko-san. He reminded. He knows how diligent you are, and will make sure that he has a good time.
He promised. Thank you. Thank you so much. She replied breathily. I'll see you at 1700, okay?
Shady.
He agreed, the call ending so that he could persuade the woman who worried him most of all out of the community he was building.
Hello, Shizu-san.
Oh, what time is it?
Blinking, his eyes narrowing, Shouta felt his teeth grit. The woman sounded exhausted. It's 11:15, Shizu-san. He replied calmly. Are you right?
Aizawa-san? She breathed tiredly. Oh, Hitoshi,
He's with me at the cafe. He assured. We're going to the mall for a few hours, and he's welcome to join us. He said, his dark eyes casting over where the boy had told him he lived, his brows furrowing. He'd still not worked out how to help her beyond what he was doing. What did Katsuki told them all not that long ago? He needed to get smarter too, wouldn't he?
You're sure you wouldn't mind?
There's no trouble, he promised. I can bring you back to your apartment at 16:30, if that's all right.
That'd be wonderful, thank you. The woman he'd helped, but still hadn't managed to save, murmured. If he needs anything, I can pay you back.
That won't be necessary,
he told her, his eyes closing against the warmth of the sun beneath the flawless blue sky that domed him, its pure perfectness mocking the misery carrying on beneath it.
We'll see you at 16:30, all right?
So this is what a family outing was supposed to look like, huh?
How's the view up there, kid? Can you see any sale signs?
Here they were, walking through the mall, Izuku perched atop his employer's shoulders and diligently looking around, his left hand shielding his eyes as he hunted for bargains, thanks to his perch, whilst Toshi conjoined them, one small hand clasped in his burnt one, whilst the other happily rested in Shota's. As they walked, instead of the usual mutters he heard about his goth clothes and scary face, he heard women comment about how adorable they looked, while some smaller children asked if they could ride their father's shoulders and sighed that they wanted a cool big brother like him. What? Aizawa-san! That game shop is offering 2 for 1 and further discounts! It felt freeing. Hell, it had been a long time since he felt comfortable enough to be in public and
Not be tense about it.
and although he'd never admit it, him and his landlord wearing similar t-shirts, his was black with an azure blue cat curled over his heart, while Shota's was sky blue with a black cat covering his was a big help. He felt included, wanted. Not for his quirk, not for his skills, not to satisfy a sycophantic man's desire to overcome All Might.
That's where we'll start. You boys have any place you want to go after, or should we head straight to the food court?
How we wished he could share this feeling with his siblings. His siblings who were still under that bastard's thumb. A bastard that he knew sadly he still wasn't strong enough to beat. Not yet, anyway.
Nah, Aizawa-san, nothing in the food court is as good as what you make.
However, the more he thought about that man, the more Shota's words filtered through his mind. Yeah, Toshi's right. I bet they don't have cakes as good as yours, even in France. Maybe he didn't need to get physically stronger.
Flattery will get you everywhere with me, boys. Just do me a favor and keep that to yourselves, all right?
Maybe he had to be smarter. Humming thoughtfully to himself, his turquoise eyes slanted thoughtfully to the unassuming man who'd blown his terrifying world apart and gently fixed the pieces back together with compassion, kindness, and infinite generosity. This man he thought could be the answer to his problems, but we won't tell the others, we promise. It was too soon to act just yet, and as happy and settled as he was right now, to go after an endeavor half-cocked, to just blurt out who he really was and why he'd chosen to fake his death, he just wasn't ready.
Good to know. Okay, Izuku, lead the way.
It was selfish, he knew. His siblings, his mother needed help right now, but Against Todoroki's legal team, his wealth, his army of staff and resources, he couldn't ask Shouta to get involved with someone who'd think nothing of suing every yen out of him. Worse still, the fanatical bastard could accuse his employer of abduction, coercion, grooming. It wouldn't take a lot of that bastard's time and money to lock the Raven-haired man up and throw away the key, would it? No, we'd have to wait by this time and think about how he could approach a conversation about who he was and what he needed to do to this wonderful man, wouldn't he? The last thing that he wanted was to repay the cafe owner's warmth and care with trouble and jail time.
You okay?
Blinking out of his thoughts, Dabi felt his cheeks warm as the other three looked at him expectantly. They were already outside the store, weren't they?
Sorry.
He smiled sheepishly while Shouta carefully placed Izuku back onto the floor so that they could enter. He'd promised to keep swapping the kids around so they could both have a few turns and had even offered him a go. At his words, the younger males had laughed. However, the lovable nutcase had seemed completely serious and asked him if he thought he couldn't lift or carry him. They'd wheezed for a solid 5 minutes.
Let's go in then,
he hedged, Hitoshi's hand still in his as they moved.
The sooner we pick up a few games, the sooner we can get back to the cafe and demand that our team dad makes us lunch, right?